Relationships is the title that Dr. Bryan Cafferky is doing. My breakout is Untangling Our Emotions, our relationships and families. Also, we have breakouts that will be offered by Dr. Angela Yee and by Nella No, and these are very practical and application-oriented, so we'll direct you to those options. We want you to have options as far as what would be most meaningful to you. Bryan Cafferky and his younger brother Nolan used to run around here, and they have wonderful parents, and we miss them around here. So glad to have Bryan here, all grown up and with his PhD and all in marriage and family therapy. He has a dynamic practice and teaching work and ministry, and we're so happy that he is part of what we're doing today and can share what he has for us. So, untangling our relationships, that small task, let's get on with it.
Sounds good. All right. About this seminar and this opportunity to talk about the formation, the attributes, and the dynamics of relational triangles, as well as our roles that we play and our positions in the triangles. That's what we'll be talking about first. Then we'll have 2 breakout sessions, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about how some triangles are stable and some triangles are unstable. So that's the plan for today. So what are relational triangles? What do they look like? What are the roles that we play? What kind of positions are we in the triangle? And then are triangles stable or unstable? And so I want to point out this little picture right here. What's happening here? What do you see? Raise your hand and tell me what you notice in this picture. Two little ones? Okay, good. What else? Food, there's food. Okay, what's happening with the food? Sharing the food, right. And in most cultures and most families, we like the idea of sharing, right? We want to promote sharing, right? But what happens if this sort of behavior continues? Weeks, months, years, and we have the one on the left doing all of the work for the one on the right. Do we see this? How do you think this, so this is a sweet symbiotic relationship, right? Because we have this one, hands on the table, mouth open, right? And all the work is being done for this person, right? All I have to do is open my mouth and food goes in. And this person might enjoy the praise that they are receiving from their parents. Oh, so nice you're sharing with your sibling. So this person enjoys sharing. This person enjoys being shared with, right? So what will happen if this sort of, what else is happening in the picture? So they're sharing a food. What else do you notice? They do. Look at this. There's a little utensil right here. Might be the same thing, like a little fork, a little bowl here. Looks like this could be dragon fruit maybe, or watermelon, right? So they have the materials right here. Good. What else do you notice?
The one on the left looks a little irritated, a little bit.
Might be irritated, or definitely focused on feeding the other one, right? Could be irritation, could be focus. Sometimes it's hard to tell. Good. What else do you notice? Yes? Blue and pink. Potentially there are some gender roles, maybe. Good. There might be twins, maybe, or close cousins that look, I'm not sure, they're sitting close to each other. Maybe there's their typical setup at the table. Good. Good. What do you think some of the rules of this family might be? What are some rules? Sharing is caring. Love it.
And maybe if the one is the older one would help the younger.
Maybe the older helps the younger, right? Good. And we're just guessing here, right? We don't know this family. We don't know what the family rules are. We're just guessing. We sit next to each other when we're eating, right? Notice how the one on the left has some food around their mouth. The one on the right also has food around their mouth, right? Both people are messy. Do we see this? And if the person on this left-hand side is feeding themselves and the other person, they might be putting food in their mouth, chewing, and while they're chewing, getting some food and feeding it to their sibling, and then try and feed themselves in between and feeding their sibling. So they're doing the work of two, right? Feeding themselves as well as feeding another person. So we like to promote sharing, but what's going to happen if this pattern continues on? And the one on the left is always solving the problems for the person on the right. What's going to happen to their relationship? Maybe become dependent, yeah. And what is each person going to learn about their role in relationships?
One on the left, I have to take care of the younger one, and the one on the right, I'm entitled to.
Good. The one on the left, I need to take care of other people. And the one on the right, I need to be taken care of, right? And I'm expecting that sort of thing. Now, obviously, this is a snapshot in time. We're not saying that one little scenario is going to spread a shadow over everything else, but we can imagine if this sort of thing continues. So I have a 7-year-old, and we're going to be transitioning from Velcro shoes to tying shoes. And I'm a little bit nervous about that because I know that tying shoes is a skill that you don't learn overnight, and it's not done perfectly all the time, right? I've done it 1,000 times. I could do it with my eyes closed. But when you're first learning a new skill, it takes some work. So I know there's going to be some protesting, right? And if I'm a good parent, and on a good day, we're going to get out to the garage 10 minutes early so we can wrestle with the shoes, right? And she's allowed to protest, she's allowed to cry, she's allowed to be upset. I'll provide some scaffolding and support. But there are also going to be some days where, okay, we just have to get in the car, Daddy's going to do it, done, right? But I have to allow her to do a little bit of struggling, correct? So she can develop her own mastery. And there's going to be some times where I'll be tempted to jump in to rescue her because I'm getting anxious because I'm catching her anxiety. How are we feeling about this? Okay, great. So as I'm talking today, I'll be talking more as like a family life educator, not as much as an LMFT, because I don't know what's going on in your lives and your situations. So if there's issues of safety and self-harm, we might want to think about some of these ideas a little bit differently. I'm talking in general, how do we understand these concepts of triangles? And one of the things that Tim and Dennis asked me to talk about before I came here, so there's one topic that everybody who comes to Health and Mind Summit wants to talk about. I'm going to see if we're on the same page. So on the count of 3, I'm going to ask you what the topic is that you're hoping I'm going to address when it comes to triangles. Ready? So think about something in your family or your relationships you want to talk about. On the count of 3, we're going to say that word at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. They told me in-laws. They told me we'd be talking about in-laws. So I'm going to talk about a story in the book of Genesis. So the first book of the Bible, something that's happening in this family, and we're going to look at the dynamics between in-laws. And oftentimes, in-laws include some triangle stuff, which makes the in-law relationship so challenging. So in this story, we have Rebecca, who is the wife, and Isaac, who's the husband, and they have twins, Esau and Jacob. And Rebecca prefers Jacob, and Isaac prefers Esau. So they have some favorites. And sometimes that happens in our family. Sometimes we have some favorites. And there's some tension between Jacob and Esau, even though their parents have some good connections with each of the two children. Are we on board with what's happening right here? Good. So in this story, there's this famous story where Jacob deceives his father. Esau comes in, the favorite son of Isaac, and Isaac says, please, can you go out and hunt some game for me? Because I want to bless you. So Esau goes out, and in the background, the mother, Rebecca, is listening. And Rebecca says, oh, I hear what's happening. Jacob, my favorite son, please come here. Let me tell you what's happening. Let's hatch a plan to trick your father. And then she has her son dress up in some goat skin and to present a meal to the father as if he is Esau. So he is pretending to be his brother. He tricks his father, and when Esau finds out, Esau gets really upset. And there's a whole bunch of background behind the story, because God has already told Rebekah that the older will serve the younger. God has already told Rebekah this. And so Rebekah is thinking God helps those who help themselves. Let me just help this thing along, because already previously there's been some tension between Jacob and Esau. And Jacob has swindled his brother out of the birthright, and now he wants the blessing from his father. And if he gets the birthright and the blessing, he's going to be, for all intents and purposes, the firstborn of the family. So a lot of people see what's happening is Rebekah is trying to pull the strings to help her son. Have we heard some of this before? Yeah, okay. There's another reason Rebekah is doing this, and it really has nothing to do with her son. It has to do with her daughters-in-law. Beginning of the story in Genesis 27, when you read the Bible here in English, the chapter breaks are artificial. The numbers, the verses, those are added in later. In the original Hebrew text, we didn't have those sort of chapter breaks. Those are added in later to help us kind of keep track of what's going on. So how this story begins is not the father telling Esau, go hunt some game, bring it back to me so I can bless you. Here's where the story begins. When Esau was 40 years old, he marries Judith, the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they brought grief to Isaac and Rebekah. This is how the story starts. Rebekah and Isaac do not like their daughters-in-law. So Rebekah is trying to find a new daughter-in-law she can get along with. See what happens later on. So here's Rebekah and Jacob, and Esau marries these two women, and Isaac has his favorite son, Esau, but there's tension between Rebekah and the daughters-in-law, and tension between Isaac and the daughters-in-law. Are we seeing this so far? We're already making some triangles, all right? We're already making some triangles. And we know that Rebekah does not like Esau, and already, all of a sudden there's some conflict between different people in this family. And we know there's some tension between Rebekah and Isaac, otherwise Rebekah would not be willing to trick her legally blind husband out of the blessing. And all of this is because Rebekah is trying to find a new daughter-in-law that she can get along with. So later on, after Esau found out that his twin brother tricked his father, Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." So in this one line, Esau says the succinct phrase, what he's going to do, and let's look at how Rebekah blows this up. She amplifies this. She makes a huge deal out of it. Now, when the words of her elder son Esau were reported to Rebekah, she sent word and called her for her favorite son, Jacob, and said to him, "Behold, your brother Esau is consoling himself concerning you by planning to kill you. Now then, my son, obey my voice and arise. Flee to Haran, where I came from, my family, to my brother Laban, so my family. Stay with him a few days until your brother's fury subsides, until your brother's anger against you subsides, and he forgets what you did to him. Then I will send word to you and get you from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day?" So one phrase from Esau, one line, 1, 2, 6.5 lines from Rebekah. She makes a huge deal about this because she wants some action. She wants a reaction. And then Rebekah turns to her husband Isaac and says, "I'm tired of living because of the daughters of Heth, my daughters-in-law. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of Heth like these from the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me?" Right? This is the soap opera going on, right? She's trying to find, can you please, okay, I told the son to go, I'm going to tell my husband. And then the husband, the very next verse, so Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and commanded him, saying, "You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Paddan-aram, to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, just like your mother told you to. And from there, take to yourself a wife from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother." So this whole situation came about because Rebekah did not like her daughters-in-law. And she's trying to find a workaround, right? So what's happening here, here's this little scenario. we have these new daughters-in-law, and this idea is, as long as I have these new daughters-in-law that I can get along with, then I will be happy, right? But because of this whole scenario, Jacob ran away, and he never got to see his mother again. And his mother never got to see her favorite son, Jacob, again. Is this a direct way to deal with a conflict? Look over here. The conflict is here. And Rebecca pulls all these strings because it's easier to create new conflict than it is to resolve old conflict. It's easy to try and go a roundabout way to try and rope someone else in to try and help you solve your problem. So because of this, Bryan does not believe there's such a thing as a two-person relationship. I do not believe a two-person relationship exists, ever. And if you don't agree with me, that's okay. I have the rest of the day to talk to you about it, to try and convince you. And if you still don't agree with me, that's okay. We can still be friends. But I'm trying to create a new paradigm for you to see relationships not in terms of twos, but in terms of threes. Triangles. Does anyone do construction or engineering or landscaping? No one here? Okay. Anyone want to make a guess? Maybe harkening back to maybe some high school physics? Some properties we know about triangles? They are very stable, right? Why are they stable? Good. All the pressure and load can get dispersed amongst the other angles, right? So this is why triangles are used in so many forms of construction, right? If we think of Egypt, one of the oldest cultures in the world, big triangles, right? Strong triangles. So triangles are predictable, right? We can know what we can expect. We can measure the load distribution that triangles are able to handle. They provide stability under tension. They have some resilience to shear forces. There's versatility and stiffness. So triangles are really, really good in certain situations, right? And in families, triangles can be really healthy and really good. They provide a lot of stability. But when people utilize triangles as a way to spread around unresolved tension and never actually deal with that conflict, that can provide some challenges in the family. If you like math, you can follow a little formula here to figure out how many possible triangles are in a room. So it looks like there could be, 25 people in this room, maybe a little bit more. So there's 25 people. There's a possibility of 2,300 possible triangles in this room. So it doesn't mean every triangle is active, some are more latent, but there's a possibility for a lot of triangulation happening. And when it comes to the world of family therapy, detriangling is probably the most important technique in family systems therapy because it's really easy to get roped into other people's drama. Really easy. And we might become used to pulling other people into our drama to get some help. In certain situations, it can be really nice to have that support. But we also need to learn how to tie our own shoes once in a while. So here's 4 different scenarios in 4 different families to see how relationships are not about twos, they're about threes. Here we go. So 2 people experience tension. They do not get along. Maybe they're having an argument over, do we have any sports fans in here? Are we Dodgers or Angels fans? I don't know if I should. Okay. Let's say we have some 2 Dodgers fans are complaining about the pitching rotation or whatever's happening with how the Dodgers are being managed, and all of a sudden, an Angels fan shows up next to them wearing their Angels hat. All of a sudden, we had some conflict about how the Dodgers are being managed, but we can both agree we're on the same side, and the Angels fan should not be sitting near us. So the addition of a third party changes how we interact. Likewise, let's say 2 people are having an argument and Pastor Tim comes and sits next to you at the table, and all of a sudden you want to be on your best behavior. Just because Pastor Tim is sitting next to you, all of a sudden we're getting along. So the addition of a third party can change how 2 people get along. In a similar manner, on the right-hand side, 2 people are getting along fine, and all of a sudden they have a baby, and as soon as that baby comes into life, that baby is very dependent on them, right? So they don't have quite as much emotional capacity to care for each other. So they start to have some conflict because now there's a third party at home they're supposed to attend to. So in both these situations, the addition of a third party changes how two people interact. In a similar manner, let's say these two people, let's say one of them is a 49ers fan and the other one is, a Raiders fan, and they're watching the Super Bowl. And they're neighbors, they're good friends, but they have some conflict while the game is on. As soon as the game goes away, they go back to being good neighbors. So the removal of a third party changes how these two people interact. Similarly, over here, let's say there are two people over on the right-hand side who have very powerful personalities, and they are co-workers at work, but they have a skilled manager to help them out. But for some reason, that manager has to move to West Virginia. And when that manager moves away, these two powerful personalities start to experience more tension and conflict. So what does this mean? It means regardless of whether or not two people experience tension or not, the addition of or the removal of a third party can change what happens between those two people just by being in their presence. I bet if we had a conversation and Donald Trump walked in or Kamala Harris walked in, that would change the way we interact just because that person walked in, right? So relationships are not about twos, relationships are about threes. And if we pretend that relationships are just about twos, we totally ignore the influence of other things around us, right? And if we ignore the influence of the people around us, it can be really easy to point at the other person and say, why is that person not getting along with me? How come they're hot and cold? What is happening here? But if you can just widen your scope just a little bit, we have a new paradigm for understanding why we experience tension in our relationships. Because triangles are the basic building blocks of these relationships. A relational triangle is a three-person emotional configuration. Each person has their own emotions, each person has their own anxiety, their own tension, and we can pass that anxiety around these triangles like a hot potato. Sometimes we have interlocking triangles. Maybe triangles in one generation pass on their unresolved distress to another person in the next generation, maybe in the next generation. Then we have this transmission like a precious family heirloom across triangles of unresolved tension from person to person. So how do these triangles begin? Two people experience some tension, and it's a little bit too much for us to handle, so we rope in a third party. And we're thinking if we can just bring in that third party to provide some stability, a listening ear, someone I can vent with, someone I can get some suggestions with, some wisdom, some support, maybe to step in to mediate between us. So I rope in this third party to provide some stability. And stability is really good. I'm not saying triangles are bad. I think triangles are really healthy in certain situations and provide a lot of stability to families. But if families never address the tension they have, and they're only triangling other people into the situation, then they're going to continue to have this unresolved distress that they continue to have to deal with. Then they're walking on eggshells. So what happens is there's distress in the dyad, and we pass on that anxiety down the line, and this third person can act as a scapegoat or a release or a target or a support system. And all of a sudden, what happens is these triangles become this multi-level modeling scheme where we are passing down unresolved distress onto the next person. And in a lot of our families, we have this social contract that you help me, I help you, we are family, right? But what's going to happen if I'm trying to teach my daughter how to tie her shoes, and I'm getting even anxious about it right now as a parent, but I know it's not going to take one try. It's going to take many, many days. And even after a month, after several months, she still might have some difficulty. And if I just give in because she's protesting so hard, fine, I'll do it for you. And I never let her struggle to develop mastery over that skill, 10 years from now, she'll be 17 years old, junior in high school. She's going to call me, Dad, I got done with gym class. Can you please come and help me tie my shoe? I'm going to have to leave Lumlinda, go to wherever high school she's going to, check in at the office, get a visitor badge, ask where the PE is, where the gym is, walk to her outside. She has to come out in her socks. Maybe her shoes are on, hopefully. I'll tie her shoes, say, I love you, babe, kiss her on the cheek, then I go back to work. And I'll do that every Tuesday and Thursday, right? So it's okay to let kids learn how to struggle with things, right, with the right support. Similarly, adults are allowed to learn to do some new things, like managing their own distress, dealing with the conflict in their lives. And to the extent that you become responsible for or try to change the relationship between two others, the more you'll experience the stress of that relationship. Meaning, the more that I see the distress between two people and I try to jump in to get involved, the more I will experience the distress between those two people. I don't like gardening, but I do it. Because I like the idea of having fresh basil and tomatoes and peppers. I love that idea. It doesn't always produce what I want, but I try and do it. Plus, it's a sensory experience for my daughters. So last year, I went to Home Depot, got little tiny plants, some potting soil, some pots from the previous year that filled it up with soil, and I got gloves on with my daughters, and I had them help me do some planting. And when we were all done, my gloves were pretty muddy. This is usually what happens, right? That's why we have gloves. We get muddy gloves. Rarely does the mud get glovey. Meaning, when I put my hand in something muddy, I'm probably going to get dirty, right? In a similar situation, the more I get involved in other people's distress, and I try and repair the relationship for them, and I feel like I'm responsible for helping them resolving their experience, all of a sudden I will start to experience that same distress myself. So you have to choose. Boy, if I get involved, there's a chance I might get muddy. You have to decide if that's worth it to you. Triangulation is really an anxiety management strategy. What's happening is I'm relying on other people to help me with my unresolved distress. And I'm trying to offload my unresolved distress onto them so that I can feel calmer. That's what I'm wanting. I'm ultimately wanting to feel calmer because I'm so distressed. I'm trying to find someone to help me or someone to blame so I can offload this onto them so that I can feel better. So triangulation is all about how to manage my own anxiety. And most people do not want to address the tension in their relationships. They'd much rather do other things. They'd try to involve a third party, and a third party does not always need to be a person. The third party can be a hobby, a career, an addiction, right? A pet, a new pursuit, a dream. So it's not always a new person. Sometimes it's just a third party, some way to escape, right? Or deal with my anxiety. A lot of people say, I love going to the gym. Gym is my therapy. And I think that's great. But if you keep going to the gym because you're so distressed and gym is your therapy, well, you're not actually dealing with the distress, right? You're just going to keep going to the gym perpetually. You might get in really good shape, but you're never actually dealing with the distress in the first place. If you've ever done me wrong, just know my cousin knows and she doesn't like you. Meaning, if you've done something to me, I'm going to call my bestie cousin and tell her what's going on, and she's going to go, what? They did what to you, Bryan? How dare they? That's what I'm saying. How dare they? And all of a sudden, we're having this whole conversation, and you don't even know that you're part of this conversation. Your ears might be burning, maybe not, but we have created this triangle with me, my bestie, and you. Me, my bestie, and you, all right? We do this naturally. This is normal. Because anxiety is passed around like a hot potato. My daughters, when they're doing swim lessons during the summer, when they get out of the pool, Daddy tries to get there to splash water. I say, oh, make sure to splash water onto the hot concrete so when they get out, they can stand on the concrete. If they don't splash water on the concrete ahead of time, they're doing this, right? Because it's hot. They're trying to limit the amount of contact their soft feet have with the concrete. In a similar sort of matter, when we have anxiety and unresolved tension, we don't want to touch it for too long. We're trying to get rid of it. That's why when you pull a hot potato out of the oven without oven mitts, you're going to be doing this back and forth because it's so hot. Most people in relationships are behaving in response to their anxieties, in response to their unresolved tension, rather than each other. Meaning, I might think I'm frustrated with you at how you're treating me, or what you're not doing with what I'm requesting, or what is expected in this relationship. But most often, it's actually me responding to my anxieties, not the other person. Triangulation is both an emotional process and an anxiety binding process. Some triangles feel stable, some feel unstable. We'll talk about this later on this afternoon. And anxiety is transferable and passes from person to person, around the triangle, around the family, down the generations, and it can have this domino effect from person to person to person. I'm not going to do this, I promise, but if I open a little box down here and I let out some rats, this table might react first. And the other people take notice, and they start saying, rats, there's a rat. Then other people hear that, or there's a rat. All of a sudden, across this room, people are starting to react, right? A domino effect, just because of their anxiety about these rats. In a similar sort of situation, in our families, we respond to anxiety because anxiety is passed from person to person to person to person. And triangles are forever and can outlive the people in them. Meaning, when someone passes away in the family, the unresolved tension they had with other people in the family doesn't magically disappear. It gets redistributed amongst the rest of the remaining family members. When one person moves away to New York, and now we don't have to see them as often, it does not mean that tension disappears. It just goes latent. Imagine there's a 16-year-old female living in Santa Barbara, and she thinks her parents are too strict. Her parents say she needs to be inside the house at 10:30, and all of her friends can be out till 12. And this is not fair. So she grabs her piggy bank, scrapes up some money, and gets an Amtrak ticket all the way across to Massachusetts, to Boston, where her aunt and uncle live. So she takes a one-way Amtrak train all the way over to Boston, and she arrives there, knock, knock, knock. She goes to her aunt and uncle's house. Aunt and uncle, my parents are so mean. And what are you doing here? I had to run away from them. Well, come in. You can live with us. Because she left her house in Santa Barbara and is all the way over in Boston, does that mean the tension she has with her parents has magically disappeared? No. Especially when they come to visit for Thanksgiving, right? The parents fly over. Oh boy, I'm getting anxious. I'm getting some goosebumps just thinking about seeing my parents. So just because people move away or pass away does not mean the unresolved tension magically evaporates. It either gets redistributed or becomes latent. It's still there. It's just not as front and center as it was before. And a lot of the stress we deal with is not necessarily our stress to deal with. It's other people's hot potatoes falling onto our lap. Or maybe the previous generations' challenges with tension or anxiety or coping mechanisms that were also passed down to us. So a lot of stuff we deal with that's on our plate may not necessarily be ours to deal with. It's other people's stuff that's been forced onto us, or we have willingly accepted to take part in. One of the things that I love doing, well, we reverse it. One of the things I don't like doing, my father, he's planning to move from Walla Walla to another state, Walla Walla, Washington, and he was packing up his house. And I was visiting him a few weeks ago, so I was helping him pack a few things to a box. And we're talking about things he's going to take and things he's going to keep. And some of the things were my childhood toys, right? Or old books. So do I want this? Do I not want this? So I had to make all these little tiny decisions because I was emotionally invested in these inanimate objects because they had meaning to me. A lot of emotional energy was spent making these choices. So moving my own stuff, emotionally draining. Moving other people's stuff, I love it. I show up, you give me water, you give me pizza, I go into your closet, I take all the clothes, stuff it into a box, close it up, with the tape, bring it out to the garage, done. I go to your closet, the lower part, I take the books, the little trinkets, put it in a box, close it up, bring it out to the garage, done. Other people's stuff is so much more fun to move because I do not have a personal connection with it. In a similar manner, some people are much more comfortable getting involved in other people's drama than dealing with their own stuff because we don't have an emotional connection with other people's stuff. It's easier for us to deal with other people's stuff than our own. So there are narratives we tell ourselves why we should get involved in other people's stuff, like they need me, they need my support. They need my help specifically. I am their pastor. I am their friend. I am their cousin. I am their father. I am their son. I am their daughter. I am their neighbor. I am in this very specific role. I should be helping them. In fact, there are oftentimes social constructs and social agreements in families about how people resolve the tension. We find someone else to help us. They are my friend and family. I have a responsibility. This is my role and my responsibility. In fact, I've been trained. I know exactly what to do. I'm an expert in this. I've been down the road before. This is not my first rodeo. I am a natural rescuer or a peacemaker. I'm good at this. God has put me on this earth for such a time as this to help this person, right? I can fix this. I know exactly what to do. I know how to tie her shoes. I'm so good at it. And if I let her do it, it's going to be more frustrating for me because she might fail. And I want to go in and be a good dad, a good helper, tie those shoes for her, right? And maybe I don't know how to do it, but I'm roll up my sleeves, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to take one for the team, because that's what good team members do, right? Good thing they called me. I'm a neutral party and a great listener. And when I talk to the other person on your behalf, I'll need to hear their side of the story too. Blessed to be the middleman. The more you get involved in other people's drama, the more you'll experience the distress that they are experiencing. And maybe it's not you conjuring up these narratives or justifications for getting involved in other people's drama, other people's unresolved distress. Maybe they're the ones pitching the story to you, saying things like, "You are so good at listening. I know I can always call on you whenever I need help," right? "I can always trust you to be there. You're such a good mediator." Or even, "Hey, I'm just worried about so-and-so. Can I have a little moment of your time?" All of these are bids for, "Can you please take this hot potato from me?" Now, again, third time I've said it, triangles are not bad, all of them. They provide a lot of stability in families, right? But if we always jump in to rescue other people all the time, we rob them of the opportunity to develop mastery over certain things, right? And if we continue feeding them the solution, they won't know how to feed themselves. The only thing they will know is the shape of the spoon in their mouth. So certain times you might need to jump in to provide support, right? But if that's the pattern and they never have an opportunity to develop mastery, that's a little bit challenging. Now, obviously, different people have different support needs, right? Like, I'm not going to let my daughter, okay, you have to figure out how to drive the vehicle on your own. No, we're going to be working on this, right? And different people have different support needs when you're thinking about the life course, and so you need to be thinking about that. But for people who are able to handle certain things, you want to give them opportunity to develop mastery over the things that they can handle. We don't get a lot of this in California. This is snow, right? Has anyone ever lived in an area where there's more snow than California? Okay, a few hands. Okay, great. I don't know if you can see this. Is this snow hard or soft? Soft? Maybe if the lights were lower, we would see this is, how about this one? Hard or soft? Looks hard. This is going to be like a boulder. It's like a chunk of ice. And there's a vehicle over here that needs to get out of the driveway, but there's this big boulder of ice. How is this vehicle going to get out? Someone said it's not. Someone said drive really fast, right? Throw into reverse, right? Okay, that's a possibility. If you get a shovel, maybe, but this is a chunk of ice, right? So you're going to have to, maybe a pickaxe is better than a shovel. Here's this situation, bottom left. A snowplow has pushed the snow right up to the garage door. And this looks like one of those garage doors that swings out, not rolls up. And so you may not even be able to get into the garage to get your shovel or pickaxe because the snow is blocking the garage door. This situation, this happened in Benton Harbor, Michigan. What happened was there was an individual who went into this auto parts store, did not like how they were treated by the manager, and then a few months later at 3 a.m., this person was called because one of the side businesses was putting a plow on the front of their pickup truck to help with the snow. He got called at 3 a.m. in the morning. hey, can you please go and empty out this parking lot, push all the snow? Yes, I could do that. So he attached the plow in the front of his pickup truck. He arrived at the address, and he realized this is the exact store where he was mistreated. So what he did was push all of the snow to the front door so that the patrons would have to hike over this big old block of ice just to get into the store. Now, when snow plows push snow around, are they getting rid of the snow? Snow plows do not get rid of the snow, but they're really good at moving it around, right? That's what they're made for. A lot of us live in relationships with people who are really good at moving snow around, not actually getting rid of it. But we don't need to actively participate in these triangles if we don't want to. When we allow ourselves to be triangulated, we don't actually remove any of the anxiety. Instead, we are just accepting this opportunity to receive other people's hot potatoes. And we pass hot potatoes on to other people. Let's go back to the snow experience. Let's pretend I'm living on a cul-de-sac. And all of us, let's say there's 6 or 7 neighbors on this cul-de-sac. And I wake up one morning, and there's some snow in my driveway. I think, oh, there's 2 inches of snow on my driveway. I'm going to shovel the snow onto my neighbor's driveway. 20 minutes later, my neighbor comes out. Oh, there's supposed to be 2 inches of snow last night, but it looks like there's 4 on my driveway. I better shovel all this snow onto my neighbor's driveway. 45 minutes later, third neighbor comes out. Whoa, there's 6 inches of snow on my driveway. All the way around. And if the person across from me in the cul-de-sac is very industrious, they could take their 12 inches of snow on their driveway and carry it all the way over back to my driveway. We're just shoveling snow around the driveways. And that's sometimes what's happening in our families. We're not dealing with the distress. We're just shoveling it around. The result is we learn how to perpetuate the practice of spreading anxiety to and from those that we care about. Proverbs 26:17 says, like one who grabs a stray dog by the ears is someone who rushes into a quarrel not their own. You don't know what you're getting into, and as soon as you jump in to support them, there's a chance you might get bit. So to the extent that you become responsible for or try to change the relationship between 2 people, the more you will experience the distress of that relationship. And then what happens to the larger system? A couple things happen. 1, people learn to become dependent on other people to support them and not develop any mastery themselves. Conflict is not managed directly. Nobody assumes responsibility. Anxiety and issues become stuck and frozen, and we start to walk on eggshells. Because I don't want to talk about this. I can't deal with this. We're not allowed to deal with it. This happens in individualistic cultures and collective cultures, both. There's certain constructs and social expectations about how to deal with this, but this sort of thing happens in all cultures and all families, and sometimes it can be helpful to offload because pushing snow around is a really good short-term coping mechanism. I'm going to clear my plate with all my hot potatoes, but not a long-term solution, right? Otherwise, everyone's spending all this energy shoveling snow all around the neighborhood. So sometimes people have anxiety they want to share with me, and we might share. I might have some drama I want to share with them as well. So we exchange hot potatoes. I don't necessarily feel better afterwards, except now I'm holding other people's hot potatoes. All right, Brian's been talking quite a bit. Let's have some little conversation amongst our tables and try and answer these questions. 1, what is a relational triangle? How do they work? 2, why are triangles, not dyads, the basic building blocks of emotional systems? 3, what are some reasons or justifications or narratives that we use to justify why we are continuing to participate in triangles? And finally, what happens to us or the system when we continue to participate in triangles like this? So talk amongst yourselves, try and answer these questions. we're going to tap into the wisdom of the room and try and find some answers. So share with me an answer you heard from your own lips or someone nearby you thought was a pretty good answer to the first one. What is a triangle and how do they work? How do they function? Ooh, there's a chance that Bryan did not explain this well enough. All right, okay. So a triangle is a three-person emotional configuration, all right, between three people. And how do they operate? How do they function? What happens in the triangle?
Well, either the third party member the third party member impacts the tension between the other two people.
Good. The third party can impact what happens between these two people, right? So if these two people have tension, the addition of a third party can change how these two people interact. All of a sudden, they get along. Or maybe they get along and the third party comes, all of a sudden now there's tension. Or the third party leaves, all of a sudden these two people change the way they interact, right? So the addition of or the removal of a third party can affect how these two people in the dyad get along. Good. What else happens in a triangle? Anxiety is passed from person to person in the triangle, right? We pass it around the triangle. Okay, why are triangles, not dyads, the basic building blocks of emotional systems? Bryan needs to work on his teaching.
I can say it in my own words.
Okay.
Okay. So the question is, which one are we doing?
Why are triangles, not dyads, the basic building blocks of emotional systems?
So the way that I understand it is that as humans, we always, it is our nature to seek for support.
Yes.
You would seek for that, whether it's in your best friend or whether it's in your pastor or a person that you feel that you think you will be heard and supported by, and that is our nature to look and search for a third person when life is difficult and you feel that it is too much for you to handle, or you don't know, you don't have the words or the skills, you would naturally seek to someone you trust to kind of support you in resolving a problem.
Thank you. Perfect. So when my two daughters have conflict, who do they come to? Mom, right? And if I have difficulty with some project and I can't find the cinnamon, who do I go to? Mom, right? So it's not always conflict between me and another person. It could be me and an object or a career or a decision. There could be tension there. And I'm seeking support, which is normal and natural. This is why relationships are not about twos, it's always about threes. There's always a third party. And if we pretend like there's not a third party, we're missing out on the influence that third party is actually having on our relationships. What are some reasons or stories or narratives or justifications we tell ourselves why it's a good idea to help other people with their drama? It helps us not to, we're kind of distracting ourselves from our own stuff, and we can deal with it. We can feel helpful by doing so. We're the savior. We can be helpful, right? I'm a helper. And as most of us, if those of us who identify as Christians or just people in the world, it feels good to be a good person usually. It feels good to know that we were helpful, that we were needed. Good. What are some other narratives we tell ourselves why it's important for us to jump in to solve their situation? Yeah. Yes. I have resources and experience. Both of those would be invaluable to them. If they could take this from me, then they could do it. Here, let me tie your shoes for you. And it's just like that. Super easy, right? Okay. What happens to us and or the system when everyone is just passing on hot potatoes and participating in triangles in this manner and not actually dealing with the root of the tension? What happens to the family system? Overload. Yeah. Or enabling other people. Sometimes some people are doing more work than others, right? We become dependent on certain people. There are unresolved stuff we're not allowed to talk about, right? Because if we talk about it, then someone's going to get upset. And then now I'm avoiding their reaction because I get anxious when I see the reaction. And then when I have stuff that reminds me of the unresolved stuff I haven't touched with, I got to pass it on as fast as possible, sweep it under the rug, and all of a sudden, this tension becomes stuck in the family system. And we have to maneuver around it, and we can't act and move freely as we would like to. Okay. Our roles in the triangles. We have 3 different roles we can play. We can generate anxiety, we can amplify anxiety, or we can dampen the anxiety. These are 3 different roles we can play in the triangle. Not every triangle has these 3 roles accounted for, right? And I have done all of these before. I have generated anxiety, I have amplified anxiety, and I've also dampened anxiety. So what does this look like? The generator brings their anxiety as their +1. Hey, we got to pay attention to this. This is an issue. Someone help me out. They're generating the anxiety. The amplifier catches that anxiety and they amplify it. Now, there are 2 main ways this amplification happens: intentionally and unintentionally. There's a chance the amplifier doesn't even know that they've caught the anxiety and they're making a big deal about it. In fact, they might catch the anxiety and intentionally try not to amplify, but in doing so, still amplify. There's a certain type of creature that has 8 legs that is very small that I do not like. It's called a spider, just in case you didn't catch that. And so if I'm walking around the house and I see one of those, I will use my spider voice, and Jenny, my wife, knows what this means. I'll say, Jenny, can you please get me a paper towel? Oh, she knows what that is. There's only one time in my life when I use that voice. It's when there's an arachnid. And similarly, my wife will say, Brian, just so you know, if you go over there under the counter, you might want to just be aware what's over there. And I know she's using her spider voice to alert me so I don't freak out, right? So by her trying to not pass on the anxiety, she's totally passing it on to me, right? I'm totally catching it from her, right? Because she's trying to dampen it, but she's making it worse. Think of a scenario of let's say there's a 10-year-old boy who's getting bullied at school. And he comes home and he goes to his mom. He goes, Mom, I'm getting bullied at school. They don't like my shoes, the food that I bring, they're making fun of me. I don't know what to do. And Mom goes, oh, don't worry about it. You got like 6 weeks of school left max. You're in 3rd grade. It's not that big of a deal. Just hunker down, put your head down. Don't worry about it, okay? Don't be such a big baby. Toughen up. So what's happened is the son, 10-year-old, has mustered up enough courage to tell his parent about it, and the parent has dismissed his concern as not that big of a deal. So now he knows, oh, my mom is not going to help me. And in doing so, that has actually amplified his anxiety. So he goes to Dad. Dad, I'm getting bullied at school. Kids are making fun of me, say my food smells funny, give me nicknames. Who's doing that to you? Well, there's 3 boys. Who is it? Tell me their name. I'm going to call the principal right now. I'm on speed dial. I'm going to call your teacher, call him. And in fact, I'm going to go to school with you at 6 a.m. tomorrow, and I'm going to stand out there with you. You point out who the kids are. I'm going to take pictures of them so that when school drop-off comes the next day, I'm going to go and give those parents a piece of my mind. In fact, we're going to have a big old, okay. He's reacting. He's caught the son's anxiety. He's amplifying, making a huge deal out of it, right? Luckily, Nana lives at home. The boy goes to Nana. And in some families, Nana would say, come here, what's going on? Someone's bullying me at school. Oh no. Come here. They're making fun of me, my shoes. Oh, baby, come here. Come here, sit on Nana's lap. Come here, okay. Tell me all about it. Well, they're making fun of me. Oh no. My food smells funny. Oh no. And I don't like it. I'm scared. Yeah, it sounds really scary. Well, you're here with Nana right now. you're going to be okay, and this boy starts to cry. Because all of a sudden there's someone who is creating a safe space, right? In other families, the expectation might be Nana goes, oh, no. Those boys can't do that. We will not let that happen. I will be here to support you. You are not alone. We will take action, and we are here for you. But again, not amplifying the anxiety, right? So you can generate, amplify, or dampen, and not every triangle has all three of these represented. In fact, if I come with an issue and I generate the anxiety and nobody catches it, I'm going to amplify it. I said there's a rat. There's 10 rats. How come nobody's getting up out of their seats? I'm trying to get you to react to what's happening. So I might generate, then amplify if I don't get the reaction I want, right? We're pretty good at these two things, generating and amplifying. The hardest one for us to do is dampening, typically. Because we have to intentionally not catch their anxiety. We have to intentionally not react to them. That is their anxiety, not ours. We do not have to take their anxiety onto our plate. We can recognize that they are distressed. My daughter gets distressed about tying her shoe. If I catch her anxiety, I'll find myself reacting to her. But if I say, oh, this makes sense. She's distressed. She's upset. Tying shoes is hard. This is her anxiety, not mine. And the best thing I can do is to remain calm. Instead of her spreading her anxiety onto me, I can spread my calmness or offer my calmness, and maybe my calmness will spread to her. Me, after bringing up my drama into the group chat, hoping that people in the group chat will respond and support me. And when a stressful moment is met with more stress, it can start to amplify and get bigger and bigger. But when stress is met with calmness, it seems a little bit more manageable. Why are you dragging all that negativity into this triangle? Because it needed to be brought to your attention. You know I can't resist making mountains out of your molehills. This isn't even my molehill. I don't care whose it was because it's mine now. We can catch other people's anxiety. They might be over it 5 minutes later, but we have caught it and we are still holding on to it. They've been able to offload that onto us. Talk about the roles. Talking about positions now. There's an outsider and an insider. Basically, the insiders are the people who experience the tension. Q and P are insiders, the tensions between them. M is the outsider. But these two people want some support. They're going to seek support. They're going to try and rope M into their unresolved distress. So one of the good things you can do is think, is this a me issue or a them issue? All right? If my daughter is struggling with her shoes, is this a me issue or a shoe and her issue? Well, it's going to be my issue if we're late, right? All of a sudden I've caught her anxiety. I jump in to rescue her. She never has the opportunity to struggle, learn mastery. We continue this down the line. She's 17 years old. I still have to tie her shoes, right? But if this is her issue, I can provide support, but maybe some scaffolding, but I don't have to jump in and rescue her from her shoes. Her shoes are not going to bite her, right? But sometimes people are just waiting on the outside, hoping to be invited into other people's drama because it's more fun to observe from the outside. And what else am I going to do with my time, right? I'm going to meddle. I'm going to listen. I'm going to jump in to find out what's happening with you. So it's actually better to be the odd person out. It's better to recognize you are the odd person out and be on the outside so you can decide whether you want to get involved and how much you want to get involved, right? So stay on the outside of their business if it's not your business. Now you might say, well, Bryan, in my family, we are not allowed to do that. Right? We cannot stay on the outside. When it's one person's business, it's the family's business. And we will talk about later on this afternoon, how can we de-triangulate ourselves from those tricky situations, right? Or we may not necessarily want to wholeheartedly open up our plate for anybody's hot potato whenever they want to dump it on us. Maybe there are some strategic or sensitive ways we can address other people who are wanting to offload their distress onto our plates. All right, another opportunity for us to chat in our little circles. Explain this to your partners. What is the difference between a generator, amplifier, and dampener roles? Does a triangle always have these three roles represented in the triangle? And what is the difference between the insider and the outsider, and which position is preferable? So talk amongst your tables, try and answer these questions. People are still talking, so I'll let you have a little more time. All right, let's tap into the wisdom of a group. What is the difference between the generator, amplifier, and dampener role? Someone help me out. The generator is kind of the initiator. They started. They bring the issue up for other people, saying, hey, here's a potato we should be paying attention to. Here's some distress that I need some help with, or someone needs to deal with, right? Good. What's the amplifier do? More gas into the fire, yeah. Let's make this little tiny little flame into a bonfire, right? We got to deal with this, get some attention. Awesome. What does the dampener do? They create a safe space. They're calm, and they don't catch the other person's anxiety, right? Okay, you just put gas on the fire. I'm just going to put a blanket over it, right? It's a fire. It still might be hot, but we're going to be okay, right? Yeah.
So what's the difference between dampening and dismissing?
Good. Yeah. Okay. There's a fire. Okay. There's a rat. There's a rat over here. It's not that big. It's probably not going to bite anybody. They don't bite very hard, right? That's dismissing. Not that big of a deal. What? You talked about biting now? Now I'm imagining them biting me. I'm dismissing it, but for some people, that might actually be amplifying the situation. I'm trying to dismiss it, trying to make it seem like it's not that big of a deal, but in doing so, you just realize, okay, this is bigger than I first imagined. Does that help?
Yeah, but how is that different from the
Dampener? Oh, okay.
It seems like some people might experience somebody who's dampening as dismissing.
Potentially someone might be trying to dampen, but they're actually dismissing, right? It's just some rats. It's not that big of a deal. Hey, calm down. It's not that big. We can be okay. We're not going to get any diseases. We're okay. That's not necessarily dampening. So I'm going to do my best at dampening rats. I might not be that skilled at it, but I'll try my best. Okay, we have some rats. So let's all go through this door, or you can set up on your seats, and Pastor Tim will call whoever he needs to and deal with the situation. We see what's happening. We named it. We have an exit route if we need to, or you can stay seated, and someone's going to deal with it. But I'm not catching the anxiety rats, okay. I might even go, oh, I got this, hold on. Whoop, hop down, this is a rat. How's he doing that? How come he's not afraid? I've had a lot of experience with rats. Oh, good, there's someone in the room that knows how to deal with this. Oh, I feel so much better. Okay. Okay. Does a triangle always have those three roles represented? No, good. There might not be any dampener, right? One person might generate it, someone else catches it, amplifies it, goes, wow, look what we have in our triangle over here. This triangle needs to know about it, right? There's rats when we were talking with Bryan. There's rats, texting your parents, rats. And then you tell your friend, you know what? I was over here on Sunday, talking to your neighbor. There were rats loose. What? Oh, I'd hate that. All of a sudden, this anxiety is perhaps, I would never deal with rats. I would never go back again. It's been passed around the circle. The rats are done with, but anxiety is still churning around the different triangles. Okay, what is the difference between an insider versus the outsider position, and what does Bryan say is the preferable position? The outsider, right. Now, sometimes people who are insiders pretend like they are outsiders. They pretend like they don't have a responsibility to deal with this. It's not my issue when they are actually responsible for handling this. So if you're an insider, don't pretend like you're an outsider. And if you're an outsider, don't go, ooh, I like being an insider, right? Jumping in, because the more you get involved and become responsible for other people's distress, the more you'll experience the distress of that relationship. So there is a price to pay when you get involved. Okay, let's jump, because a little bit of time left. We're going to jump forward to a quick little idea. If you come over to my house and I have chili, and I serve you chili in a bowl, I put it down on the table, and I say, careful, it's hot. What am I talking about? What? The temperature. Temperature of the bowl? Or the spiciness? Okay, which one is it? Is the bowl hot? Is the chili hot? Is the spiciness level hot? Which one am I talking about? How do you know, right? You have to ask me, right? Right? I can see the steam. Oh, he must be talking about the heat. Oh, he's talking about that kind of heat. Words don't have meanings. They get meanings from the context. Words don't have meanings. They get meanings. So if I say, ooh, you look hot. Ooh, his pants look hot. Oh, it is hot. It's hot. I'm using the same word hot But words don't have meanings, they get meanings from the context. This afternoon, we're going to talk about two words. I'm going to say them over and over. One of them is stable, one of them is unstable. And don't let your brains trick you into thinking that one is better than the other. Stable and unstable have nothing to do with amount of health in the triangle. It's just talking about whether it's comfortable to be in that triangle or not. You can have unstable triangles that are uncomfortable to be in. You can have stable triangles that are uncomfortable to be in. So stable and unstable doesn't mean one is better than the other. So is stable or unstable, does that have anything to do with the amount of health in the triangle? No. So we're looking at these two ideas, stable and unstable. And you're going to have to, between now and when we meet again, in how long are the two breakout sessions? 45 minutes. Oh, okay. Hour and a half. An hour and a half from now, when we get back in here to talk about these triangles, I want you to imagine that triangles have very specific characteristics. And some triangles are stable, some are unstable. I'm guessing most of us have sat on a stool before that is stable, sitting on the ground, solid. And also, I'm guessing most of us have also tried a stool where they kind of move around a little bit, right? We're trying to find that stability. So stable and unstable has nothing to do with the amount of dysfunction in the triangle. It's just whether or not that triangle is seeking stability or it already has stability. So is stable better than unstable? No. Is unstable better than stable? No. They're just different terms to describe whether or not what it's like being in that triangle is stable or not. It has nothing to do with the amount of health in the triangle. We on board with this? We will see in half an hour. I guess an hour and a half. So breakout session? Oh, hold on. Dr. Wallstrom has something to say.
So a little bit of direction as we go to this part. We're going to have two breakouts back to back, okay? A 45 and a 45. They'll actually go about 30 minutes or so, but allow a little transition between the breakouts, okay? So we have how many breakouts? Two, okay, back to back. First one, breakout A, Bryan is going to be leading one in here. Okay. And that is the family projection process. That's one I'd like to be part of, except I'm doing my own breakout out there. We'll start with that.
And what is your breakout session?
Mine is untangling our emotions. And
that would be one I'd like to be a part of.
And you can see how emotion is a big part when Bryan talks about anxiety. Anxiety opens the door to a lot of other emotional experiences that can, go one way or another. So we'll do that for breakout A. So Bryan will be in here. We're doing the family projection process. I'll be in the center room out there with untangling our emotions. I'm going to do both breakout A and B out there. Breakout B, after Bryan's done in here, we'll have process-oriented and some practical help from Dr. Angela Yee and Nella No. And so we'll have one in here and one in the fireside room dealing with basically calming or dampening, does that whole process. Anything you want to add to that? That all right?
Processing out in a more individual sense what you're having in mind.
Okay. And you'll be in two locations, right, following up here. So breakout A with Bryan starting right away, and I'll be back in the center room, and then breakout B will be with Nella and Angela here in the fireside room.
Can you give them 5 minutes to have a bio break or something?
So I said 45.
Yes.
The actual breakout will be about 30 minutes. Allow you a little time, transition time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. okay? A consequence. And what's going to happen is I'm going to give you a few seconds to identify something on the screen, and then we're going to go around the room to find out who correctly identified it. And if you get the number wrong, you're going to come up here, and we're going to do a little song and dance together, okay? It'll be short, okay? A little song and dance together. So you have to pay attention to detail. So what's going to happen is I'm going to give you about 6 seconds on the next slide. You're going to count the red cars, okay? And we'll go around the room to see who counted the correct number of red cars. And if you get it incorrect, you're going to come up here with me, and we're going to do a little song and dance. Are we on the same page? Okay. And so, yeah, somehow the formatting is a little bit odd. So you'll come up here to sing a little song and dance for us. I'll participate in that with you, so you won't be by yourself. If there's just one person, there'll be at least 2 people up here. Ready? Count the number of 6 cards. I'll give you 6 seconds. Ready, set, go. Okay. Let's see how you did. How many blue cars were there? How many black cars were there? How many yellow, green cars were there? Gray, white? Does anyone know? No? Okay, how many red cars? Okay, I won't make you do a song and dance. The reason for the song and dance was I was trying to heighten your anxiety a little bit. So you could focus on the red cars. Let's notice how much we missed because we were just focused on the red cars, okay? Look at all this other information. So much other information, right? We were hyper-focused on the red cars. This is something that happens in the family projection process. And throughout the next 28 minutes, I'll be talking about it in the scenario of parents who have children in their family. But this family projection process can also take place in a school with a teacher and a child, or in a work situation where there's a manager or a boss with some employees under them, or maybe some roommates, maybe there's a group of roommates, and they have this anxiety about someone, they're projecting that anxiety. So they can happen in several different contexts, but I think it's the clearest when it comes to a family with parents and a child, okay? So if you don't have a child at home, or you're not a parent, or maybe you're looking back to your family of origin, maybe you can see these sort of patterns. We'll be talking about it in a very specific context, but you can apply this to other situations. It's hard to notice the other colors when we are anxious about needing to solve the problem of the number of red cars. When we're focused on needing to solve that problem, or something bad might happen, we become hyper-focused on that, and we missed all the other colors, a whole bunch of other pieces of information we could have had access to. So when you look at this loom and looking at this fabric, which color is most important? Magenta is most important? They're all important, right? Right? But if I asked you, can you find the yellow threads? You'd find the golden threads, you'd find those, all right? Because you thought that was the important piece, right? When it comes to someone's life, there's lots of different colors, but it's really easy for parents to focus in on one specific color if they're anxious about it. Now, hear what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. I think it's good when parents are hoping to find things that are going to help their children. I think that's a great thing. But if they're only focused on the problems, that's it, they miss out on all the other colors. So we have dominant narratives about what the important colors are. Red is the most important. If we can solve the red car issue, then I'll feel calmer. So we have these dominant stories about which things are most important. And oftentimes, there are alternative narratives that are also happening at the same time. There are blue cars and red cars and green cars and white cars and gray cars. Lots of other cars in the parking lot that we totally miss because our dominant narrative says, red are the cars we need to pay attention to. So sometimes our dominant narratives act like blinders, and we're not able to see the other nuances because they don't seem as important to us. All right, here's the situation. There's 2 parents, and they have 2 children. And they're like, what is going on with this yellow fish? They're focused on the yellow fish. In fact, they see the yellow fish, oh, something's wrong with the yellow fish. So because of all this extra attention the yellow fish is experiencing, they're experiencing this fishbowl effect, where their parents are always watching them to see if they're doing it right. Whereas the other child, the orange one, is more able to grow freely and naturally because they don't have this hyper focus upon them. The family projection process happens in every family, but sometimes it's more pronounced, right? It's more acute. It's more intense. So sometimes in some families where there's this intense family projection process, the results are more marked. So we might grow up in the same home, but we don't grow up in the same family, right? We can have different experiences even if we grow up in the same home. We're going to skip through some of this so we can get back to, all right, every behavior is a symptom of the system, and maybe the system rules say there are certain behaviors or challenges we need to pay attention to, so parents are hyper-focused on that challenge. And from a family systems perspective, there are lots of reasons. There are developmental needs, there are personality issues, there are just overall characteristics able to calm down your own autonomic nervous system, there are behavioral challenges, there are learning challenges, there's a whole bunch of challenges, but from the family systems perspective, we would say, okay, the child that receives the most focus from the parents might actually experience worse outcomes because of the hyper-focus. I call it public spelling. When I'm in front of class and I'm teaching in class, if I have to go to the whiteboard to spell something, all of a sudden my spelling goes out the window and I cannot spell very well. Or I'm typing something and my wife, maybe I'm typing a Christmas card we're going to send out to our family and friends. My wife comes over my shoulder to read what I'm writing. All of a sudden my fingers forget where to go, right? Because this perception that somebody is watching you, this spectrality piece where someone is watching you do something and that affects what you do. If you ever watch sports and let's say someone's at the free throw line at the end of the game and they have to make one basket to win, they might get nervous, right? Or say football or baseball, it's the very end of the game, a lot of tension. They get some nerves because we know everybody's looking at us and we know what that's like. And in some families, parents project their anxiety onto their kiddos because they're concerned about what's going to happen to their kiddos, and they only see the color red. They're not able to see the other things as well. So this describes how parents transmit their unresolved anxiety onto their offspring. They're not intentionally doing it. They probably care about their kiddos, right? But if they're only focused on the red cars, they are missing other things as well. What happens is the parents, so here's a little piece of a genogram. We have the square, which is a male, and romantically partnered with a circle who's a female, and they have two children. The first offspring is male, the second offspring is female, and these arrows indicate the focus. And for some reason, whatever it is, the parents are focused on the younger one. And because they're hyper-focused on the younger one is going to feel that and sense that and know that they are scrutinized and under the microscope, right? And that changes their experience in the family. What happens is the child will absorb their parents' unresolved anxiety. So even when the parents aren't watching, the child is so used to being watched that they're still anxious. That fish in the fishbowl is so used to being watched that even when the parents are sleeping, it's like, okay, is someone going to be watching me? They're still experiencing some of that anxiety. So most parents naturally attend to the things they're anxious about, right? We pay attention to the things that our child might need for support needs, and that's a good thing, right? But if that's all that we focus on, we only focus on the red cars, we miss out on the more collective experience, and we miss out on the opportunity to delight in our children. So what's actually happening is there's one fish that's being paid attention to, and this other fish is allowed to just move around, not even stuck in this fishbowl. Now you might say, well, Bryan, this fish might feel left out, right? I don't get any attention from my parents. My siblings getting all the attention because they're acting out, or they have dyslexia, or they have challenges with playing a musical instrument, and all of us are naturally musical, but this one has challenges with playing the piano, so they're hyper-focused on that, demanding perfection. And I wish I had some of that attention. And part of that is probably true, but the child that is less focused on has more freedom to move its wings about, whereas the one that receives the hyper-focus is always scrutinized. So whatever stories we tell ourselves changes how we interact with others and ourselves. So the parents have these dominant narratives about what's going on with these children. So parents become anxious about the dominant narratives, the stories they have about the red cars, and then the parents project that anxiety onto their children. So here are the 4 steps. Skip over here. Okay, here are the 4 steps. 1, parents focus out of concern, something that's happening with the child, and something is wrong, and we need to fix this or address this. That's step 1. The parents think there's something that is wrong that needs to be addressed. Step 2, the parents interprets the child's behavior as confirming their fear. They just did this. See? This is what I was worried about, and this is everything that's happening. There's another red car. There are 6 red cars here in this parking lot. But I'm so focused on these red cars. So what they're seeing is confirming their own anxiety that they had. And then the parent treats the child as if something really is wrong with the child. This red car, I'm only focused on the red car. Now I'm treating you like all you are the red cars in the parking lot. That's all that I'm focused on. I'm not focused on anything else, just that one thing. Not only that, they start to spread this dominant narrative to the rest of the community, to other friends, teachers. Gotta watch out for the red cars. Gotta watch out for the red cars. So everybody is paying attention to the red cars. And finally, the child and the various systems continually reinforce this idea, and the child goes, oh, that's right. I'm just the red cars. They don't see any other nuance, no other color, no other flavor, no depth of experience. We become hyper-focused on the red cars. Because the parents were anxious about it, they transferred that anxiety, they see this actually happening, playing, oh great, our worst fears are confirmed. We're just focused on the red cars and nothing else. Everyone else hears about it, and the child starts to believe, oh, that I'm reduced to whether or not I have red cars in the parking lot. So this changes the way you see the world, right? If you have red glasses, everything's going to look red. Was that a pink car or a red car? Ooh, it's a dark pink car. Ooh, that's a red flash. That was a red stripe. Is that a red car? You're just so focused on the red, you can't see other things. So parents often worry about or simply focus more on a certain child, and one child might necessitate more of this depending on their support needs, which is appropriate to give support for parents to give support to different children different ways. But if we're just focused on the red cars, we miss everything else. It could be beautiful, and we can delight in about that child. But this continual projection of concern actually inhibits the child from expanding and growing because of this fishbowl effect. So again, the parent focuses on the child out of concern, something's wrong. They see the behavior confirming their fears. They start to treat the child as if this is actually the only thing that's important, and they spread the narrative, and the child learns, oh, this is the only thing about thee that matters, whether or not I'm doing this sort of thing, the red cars in the parking lot. So I'm under this fishbowl effect, and all of a sudden the child has absorbed the parent's anxiety. And this can pass on from generation to generation. So explain this to Corey, meet in your circles and your tables. What is the family projection process? What are the 4 steps in the family projection process? Oh, these 2, and I have the answers that will show up down below. So try and talk amongst your table, answer these 2 questions. right. Let's tap into the wisdom of the group. Someone try and tell me, what is the family projection process? Yeah. And they're usually not doing it maliciously, right? They're trying to focus on, they're probably caring about the child. They're trying to help the child, right? This is usually coming from a good place, right? Good. What are the 4 basic steps? Genuine concern, and what do you say? Yeah, genuine concern, and find something that's wrong with them, and then focusing on that, right? That's the first step. What's the next step? Verification. Oh, that's a fancy word. I feel like I should put that up here. Yeah, they're finding something that, yes, it's true. This is actually happening, right? Because I see it before my eyes. I'm ignoring all the other things that are also happening because I see this one thread that I'm focused on. Good. What happens next? Treatment. Yeah, we start to treat the child as if this is actually happening, and it probably is happening, but there's lots of other colors and threads as well, right? But we've almost reduced the child down to this one red car issue. What happens next? One more time. They do, or the child does? The child does. The child starts to absorb this and go, oh, whether or not do these red cars, this is who I am. But there's lots of other things as well. And it's normal for parents to care about and try and help and support their children. But if we just focus on the challenges that they're facing and that's it, there's so many other things we could be celebrating and delighting in and enjoying. Good. So parents' projection out of usually concern or focus, either positive or negative. Right? Sometimes the child is acting out, and then we need that to change. Other times the child is doing really well. Man, you are so good at playing piano. And I keep seeing you could be really good someday. Oh my, they think I could be good. Yeah, in fact, I think you should be a concert pianist. Oh boy. In fact, we're going to practice 8 times a week. Oh my, okay. So now I have to do this. Oh, am I measuring up? All of a sudden, like this one attribute, skill the child had, the parents are hyper-focused on, and now that's changing their experience with the piano, right? Some kids excel in this situation under the pressure, and some go up to be awesome and excellent, but sometimes, as soon as kids are able to, they drop it because it's unpleasant. It's not been fun for them to be under the microscope, to have this fishbowl effect the whole time. I love chess. I love playing chess. And I've tried to introduce chess to my 2 daughters many times, but we put the pieces out, we learn the names of the pieces, and then they just want to tell stories. Cool, we'll just tell stories. Though what I want to do is put them through their paces. That's what I want to do. I could develop a whole curriculum to help them learn how to be master chess players. But I have a cousin who also likes playing chess. And with one of his offspring, he taught his offspring how to play chess. He noticed a little spark of interest, and all of a sudden, that was everything they did every day, every weekend. And after 3 or 4 years, this child said, I don't want to have anything to do with chess ever again. Burned that joy out of it. And this is what happens also with parents projecting their anxiety over, man, you have so much opportunity, so much potential. You need to grow this. Oh, boy, so much potential. Yes, watch this. Oh, so you did it again. Oh, boy. All of a sudden, there's this idea that people are really honing in. You don't have a lot of space to make mistakes, right? You don't have a lot of opportunity to explore other things because we're so focused on the red cars. So this extra parental focus results in the child becoming more emotionally fused in an unhealthy way with the parents, and often a lower level of differentiation. We have 5 minutes left. I'm going to try and explain this process of differentiation. Differentiation is this idea. Let's go. Differentiation. Differentiation is this balance. It's this balancing act between our feelings and our thoughts, so our intellectual systems, our emotional systems. We're not totally giving to the emotion, but we're not cold-hearted robots either, right? We have this balance between our emotions and our thinking, and we're able to balance these two things, be aware of them. We're also able to be aware of our own urges to do something and what we actually want to do, and take stock of everything that's happening around us. If I am super focused on the red cars, I will see the red cars, I'll react to the red cars, I'll dream about red cars, and all of a sudden I'm hyper-focused on the issue that my parents have handed to me. Right? Differentiation is this idea that I can think one thing and feel another thing. So children who have a little bit more space, not quite as focused on, they are more able to balance between thinking and feeling. Not being overridden by their emotions, able to think things but not have to run away to their logic to avoid the feelings. They're able to be more balanced in these situations. And what happens is the person who is more differentiated, more balanced, is able to not be overwhelmed by their emotions, not be overwhelmed by other people's emotions, and they're able to respond instead of react. Whereas the child who's been in the fishbowl all the time, they're always concerned about other people seeing them, observing the things that are wrong, the things that are bad, focused on the red cars. So they are always hyper aware of other people's emotions, and they're trying to limit their own anxiety in different ways. So they're trying to navigate life, and people who have these lower levels of differentiation, what happens is there's a stronger need for acceptance. I need you to see what I'm doing, to approve of what I'm doing, because I'm used to someone watching me and giving me feedback. I'm used to people giving me constant feedback. So I'm wanting more approval and acceptance. I'm more sensitive to rejection because I'm used to people looking at me to observe to see if there are red cars or not, giving that sort of feedback. And finally, a need for more autonomy and distance. I'm so sick of this red cars, I don't care. Hand gesture, I'm gonna do whatever I want to, and I'm cutting you off because I can't handle this. Right? So kiddos react to this anxiety because they've been absorbing and catching their parents' anxiety. Again, usually parents are not doing this maliciously or intentionally trying to offload their unresolved tension. That's usually what's happening. There are other consequences for other children. Other children who are not focused on, they might start to act out to get some attention, or they might go, whew, I'm glad that is not me. So I do not want to be under the microscope. I do not want to be someone who's experiencing this fishbowl effect. So let's move quickly to, we have like 3 minutes left. One, the youngest child in the family, or the child that is focused on, will become the symptom bearer. They will have the anxiety from the family, and they will start to behave in different ways because they've absorbed this anxiety. So what can parents do? Any ideas? If this happens in every family, some families to a greater degree, some families to a lesser degree, what can parents do? Stop focusing on only the red card, right? You're allowed to pay attention to the red car, right? That's good. We should. But remind yourself, it's not just the red car, right? There's blue, green, yellow. There's a convertible. There's a motorcycle. Notice the other things as well, right? Good. That's one thing. What else can parents do? They can address their own anxiety. If I have excess anxiety, it's more likely my excess anxiety is going to spill over onto my children. Okay, I'm anxious about the red cars because maybe I was told the red cars are important from my family of origin, or an expert told me about the red cars. And so this is the only thing I'm focused on, so I get more and more anxious about this. I need to be able to calm down my own autonomic nervous system. So instead of just spreading anxiety, maybe I could spread some calmness too, right? And maybe the child will learn, red cars are important, but also these blue things, these yellow things. Parents can also start to notice alternative narratives, not just the red car narrative, but the yellow one, the green one, the blue one, and make those evident Talk about them openly. Notice those. And then parents might have to say, man, been this pattern of me hyper-focusing on this one child. I might need to back off and know that that child's behavior is not necessarily an indicator of whether or not I'm a good parent. Kids always will have a hard time, whether or not I'm the best parent in the world or the worst parent in the world. Kids will have a hard time. So I need to give a little bit of space to let them do and feel and fail and make mistakes, and I need to be okay with that because it's not just about the red car. There's other things as well. And make sure that I'm able to spread my awareness to all my kids, not hyper-focusing, but just if I can calm my own anxiety, all of a sudden these red cars aren't going to be the only thing that I'm worried about. All right, it's 3:15. It's been half an hour. I want to make sure you can transition. There are going to be 3 different breakout sessions right here with Nella. We're going to have an opportunity for us to come and talk about what we've learned and really apply it, get to the nitty-gritty, applying it to our own lives so we can process what this means for us as an individual. Is that right? Good. Then over in the fireside room, Angela's going to be talking about pausing and connecting. How do we calm down our nervous system? If we find ourselves anxious, how do we calm ourselves down so that we can be better in our relationships with other people? Because we often respond to our own anxieties more than the other person. How do we calm our anxiety so we can be better in our relationships? And then Dennis will have his next breakout session, and I forget what the topic was. Do you remember?
Second part of the untangling emotions.
Thank you. It's the second part of Untangling Emotions. Great. So we have an opportunity to transition to have a bio break, maybe some snacks, and we'll be going over to the next breakout session. So right up here, the fireside, and then right back there. Great. This one? Yep. Didn't have a lot of time to talk about it, but yeah. Yep.